Hello and welcome to the holiest place in all of real-time strategy. We're once again on Seton's Clutch, and in this game we have some excellent matchups. Zoc versus Gala is one I'd like to focus in on, although the rest of this is also very good. Gala from Beach and Zoc from Rock EF versus Cybern. Definitely have to keep an eye on that. The middle, Tiep versus Hawk. Hawk, if he was Seraphim, I think he might have been better. It's one thing people still do. You don't want to put the factory in front of where you're going to move. But that's alright. That's his choice. Tiep, I think one of the top, well, for sure one of the top, but I think the top of the top. I'm not sure if he's underrated, but he's definitely probably top 5 players on Setons if you just average over all the different positions. Extremely strong in every spot. Kagaita on Rock, from what I heard about him, is that he's kind of a player who is relatively new but learned very quickly from Gala, so one of Gala's students. Kurtalis, also Cybern. So this bottom side, not many aliens, no aliens whatsoever, so that means not a lot of resource allocation. Could be a bit of a pain, although, Seraphim, Postal is the only Seraphim. So Postal should have some advantage, maybe. Although Postal is a player I haven't seen too much of on Setons recently. I know I think he's been playing for a very long time. But if there was maybe an advantage for the bottom side, it would be in air. And the last player, definitely not least, is Pachirico. Very nice to have a team where your beach is Pachirico and your rock is Zoc. Typically, the way to think about Seton's positions is the mid player sets the tone, how much mass you get. The back player makes sure you don't lose with air, and the two naval players are the ones who win the game for you. So if you give your side players a chance to win, providing air and getting mass, you should be in good shape. Although recently now with all the mid players building Navy as well, they're getting a much bigger impact later on in the game. So it's not just playing defense, building an Omni and making experimentals. It's also now building some things like nukes, and although nukes have always been popular. Now I'm going to stop rambling and look at what happens in the middle. Tiep takes out an engineer. There's an analogous engineer for Tiep. Could be a slight advantage to the top side. We got strikers. What the heck? Strange. Something. Oh, and this is this could be dangerous for that transport. That transport needs to not fly in one direction. Actually, if you're Voodoo, you could have probably microed your way out of that. Those NGs are gonna try to walk the way all the way to the island. Will Pachirico have a transport ready? He's working on one. He's also got a bomber. This would be a very dangerous situation. Gala putting a lot of pressure on Zoc. Zoc taking pretty hard. But in terms of air control over the island, Gala might be in a position to grab. You can see his power throttle is working. In the middle, Hawk and Tiep getting the last chunks. There's still a few left here, about 400 mass. And these is about 600 mass left. I imagine Tiep probably got a little more. He's nearly 7,000. Hawk about 1,000 less. It's actually going to be a little less than 1,000. So a slight advantage to the top side. This factory will be completed in time, which is critical. You can see the timing here was very close. With more bombers though coming in, if they can take out these engineers in one pass, and they can perhaps suppress production of any units from the factory. This could be problems. There is a scout from Kagaita. Kagaita totally suppressed in terms of air. Look at all these scouts and inties. So Kagaita could be in a bit of trouble. Zoc looks like he has recovered air with a nice air force of his own. I don't think Gala actually made a transport, so he was just putting pressure on Zoc. Meanwhile, Hawk getting Tech 2. Tiep. There's something I need to change real quick. Alright. So hopefully now this will be a lot easier. Maybe I should slow it down, show what I did. If you go into the console, there are 2 important commands: UI command click scale. People should definitely know about that. And select tolerance. You wouldn't want to play with these settings, but I think they'll be easier for a cast from looking at this from far away. Hopefully it's not the secret I'm giving away, but definitely something you should look at. And we want to go back to +2. Let's see. Should be a fairly long game. Zoc is taking over his island with a massive air force that's going and try to take air from Gala. Gala has 2 factories producing air. Actually, he's got, oh, that's a land factory. And Zoc with an attack move. Gala trying to micro, but numbers for Zoc. Zoc takes total control. This right here represents 1,000 mass invested by Zoc. With UAF bombers, each one can damage 300 in one pass. See what, yeah, but they are quite fragile. Flak coming up, 150 mass for each one of those. So I think Zoc did win that air, but overall he didn't really gain anything from it except forcing Gala to build up a little bit of flak in the middle. Okay, so this is a all-around battle. Tech 2 versus Tech 2. There's gun for Tip, but Hawk has Tech 2 and gun. Looks like Tip has an advantage of a couple of mass projectors and a massive Tech 1 bomber force from Pachirico. Pachirico really dominated. He has taken the silence. So I guess something that we missed, but he did have that air control. When looking to use Tech 1 bombers, they are expensive. Sorry, I lied. Each bomber is 80 mass, not 200. Sorry. So that wasn't 1,000 mass. That was about 400 mass. Yeah. They're really fragile, so they're very good to attack undefended positions. They're also very good to force flak to come out. And you can think of one of these flaks in terms of mass cost. It's 2 Tech 1 bombers. This one already has 5 kills. And in terms of a naval, this is a massive naval production from Pachirico. So Pachirico is looking to completely suppress any naval production from Cagaita. Meanwhile, in the middle, Tiep's going to retreat with UEF ACUs facing UEF on UEF here. The TML is, the ACU TML is very potent, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of these players chooses to get that even late, because you can shoot right over the TMD. Interesting that Gala built a single naval factory, flak and sonar. Sonar doesn't have too much of a range. Krut finished his RAS and has passed his power over to Gala, who's now going to get the RAS of his own here a little after minute 10. And Cagaita probably, yeah, he's got a couple more naval factories. He really needs to invest more heavily. This island will eventually fall back to Cagaita if he's able to establish some sort of navy. But he does not want to be knocked out of the navy game completely. These frigates have done a good job preventing any torpedo launchers from being produced. And there are now also some submarines being mixed in. Yeah. It's one thing to think about what are the different factions. What are the weakest factions in terms of defending against early naval assault like this? Aeon's definitely the best at defending with their auras. Just make some tanks and come in and suppress, unless you're facing a lot of frigates. Seraphim is quite strong with the floating arty. But I think EEF and Cyber, two factions that definitely could be vulnerable, especially against Seraphim. But it looks like Cagaita is able to put up a couple torpedo launchers, which will give him some time. Drops coming in from Tiep as well. Tiep a bit ahead in terms of mass. Zoc really ahead in terms of mass here. 4,500 reclaim. Check out all them scouts. He knows exactly what's happening everywhere. He's got a lot of build capacity standing by. And you can fall into a mentality in this game sometimes where if you produced a piece of build capacity and it's not being used, it's being wasted. which is a good rule of thumb, but there are a lot of exceptions. You want to be poised to suddenly engage it and recover, but if you just use up all the build capacity that you have, you will stall your other projects. Hawk moving up, 31 kills. Tiep still doesn't have Tech 2 in his ACU. Tiep is just taking up like crazy here. Is he gonna go Tech 3? He's got Tech 2 power. He's nearly got mass caps on all of his Tech 2 mass extractors. And is this a successful drop? It looks like a successful drop from Tiep. He's got his transport standing by. But good work from Kagaita. He had this massive build capacity. I think this is one of the reasons he was able to stay in here. Looked kind of dangerous for a while from Pachirico, but he's built up this navy. It's fairly even. But we're going to see a counterattack from Gaeta here shortly. Pachirico's still ahead in terms of mass, given that he's got that island. ASF from Kurtalis, and this is where that advantage for the bottom side of having a better air player might play out. Kurtalis will clear all the air from Zoc. Zoc continues to build up his naval production. Kurtalis just spamming Tech 1 frigate, so you can see both players here just really poised for that naval fight. Not ready to really start investing a lot of mass, but they can turn that on at any moment. As the assault from Hawk. Hawk is really low on health here. He needs to be very careful. He needs a little bit of vet here. 58 kills. Some Tech 2 juicy opportunities for taking up, but I think Tiep has just done enough. He's got a very well placed Tech 2 PD. He's got Tech 2 of his own. He's got a lot of pillars here to play defense with, and he's got a full health ACU. So he's going to be in a pretty good shape. I think Hawk here could establish a couple Tech 2 PDs. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. And that's definitely some mass to fight over. As Postal with Strat Bombers. Interesting. I don't think he's got air control. Let's see. What does he have in terms of 15 ASF? 23 SF. So he would likely lose an air battle. This strat, though, he wants to end the life of Hakuto. Probably will only... it's very well done there. He was also hoping that this ASF would fly over that ACU. So in this case, he was hoping that the ACU nuke would damage all the ASF, but it looks like Kurtalis did not fall for it. A good attempt, but now this base will be given over to Kurtalis. Likely will be given over to Gala. Yep, Gala. The Gala with the double base will face two very good players. And this strat is such a badass. You know, that one kill is an ACU, and it was able to survive. Interesting, as we're seeing cruisers. Good choice from Kagaita here with these cruisers. He can begin to pick off any mass extractors and can suppress that production. The HQ for Pachirico is up ahead. Sometimes I think it's a good move to make the HQ back home and make a bunch of supporting factory there, but Pachirico trying to play for the win here. He does not want to think of a situation where he will lose that battle. He continues to send forth more Tech 1 NGs. Aggressive sonar from Zoc, always nice to see. That sonar is giving him total coverage. Let's see. He knows exactly what's happening. He knows there's a Tech 3. And this is all UEF on UEF action. That's probably why people gave me this game. Thinking about what I should call this. And people in comments, sometimes people come up with good words like epicness. Definitely, if you feel like there is an appropriate name for this, put it in the comments and I will use it. But epicness has already been used. Another drop. If it worked once, it'll work again. And those are going to be a couple pillars. They're friendly. About 60 damage per second from those. It's just very annoying. Zoc pushing up, a very good looking cruiser. placement of those cruisers is usually critical. Can make that unit a lot stronger than it really is. Tiep has recovered. Well, since Hawk died with his ACU, Tiep's the beneficiary of the middle position. He's also going to help with Riptides as the battle between Kagaita and Pachirico is really heating up. Still at the Tech 2 stage. Pachirico is going to build even more factories. Good placement on the shield. And multiple destroyers. I really think this massive build capacity production from Kagaita is making him very strong here. Although the placement of the engineers could probably be a little better. As we're seeing the first signs of Tech 3 Navy battlecruiser. The second one also a battlecruiser. I want to see at what point Gala switches from battlecruisers to battleships. Imagine Tech 3 Navy here as well. There's also battlecruisers. So very similar timing on the battlecruisers between these two players. And on UEF and UEF battles, shields also become a fairly big variable. That's where you usually have your main factory producing Tech 3 and then support factory. Here you can see this is a shield producing factory and this is now a Cooper producing factory. That's interesting. Why would Zoc want Coopers in such a situation? Because there are submarines. That makes total sense. So we have a Cyber and UEF combo here versus straight up UEF. Cyber and UEF combo I think is really good until you get to the Tech 3 stage where it's basically all UEF. It does look like Kagaita is fighting back. The key to fighting with UEF is to be very methodical, not to make sudden moves, just slowly creep up, killing everything, reclaiming everything in small steps. You don't want to overextend, keep your shields over your navy. And this is shields and battlecruisers, shields and battlecruisers. But great way to kill shields. Send in these Riptides. I think actually I'd love to see Tieps hand those over to Zoc. Come in here, assassinate the shields. And another unit in such a fight, if somebody had Aeon in this game, which nobody has, is the Absolver. Absolver, extremely good against shields. Or the Tempest, extremely good against shields. Kagaita. Yeah, this will be, I think, a major loss to Pachirico unless he can do something. Pachirico needs to make it another HQ, because once that's dead, he's in trouble. And in terms of ecos, Pachirico significantly ahead, but Kagaita is going to be the beneficiary of a lot of reclaim. Plus, freshly made, freshly captured island here shortly. Lots of scouts from Postal. One thing we haven't looked at here, minute 21, nukes. A very good looking piece of construction. I've not seen any nukes or anti-nukes from Postal. Kurtalis. Yeah, Kurtalis has the game figured out. There are a couple players who have ecos for this game figured out. In that list, I'd put SC Account, our favorite player, Gala, and I think Kurtalis is another. Who, I mean, you can be very good at a certain stage, but to be very good throughout the game and the really late stages where a lot of people just don't really play that late stage. Another player, I think, Styre, takes extremely well, and as that's happening, we're seeing Strat bombers. I think that was that same Strat. Took out two Tech 2 mass extractors, Riptides from Tiep, making it an assault. I don't know if those are going to do too much damage. To Destroyer coming out. Destroyers are, from UEF, probably the best unit against the Riptide. A lot of damage over water. And let's see how Kagaita decides. Well, these Riptides are really making it deep. But I don't think they're going to do any significant damage. They're just kind of a nuisance. Let's see. The mid base for Gala will be critical. He is working on Dectorator, which will become an Omni at some point. Tiep, I imagine, is going to have all Tech 3 mass extractors here very soon. And yeah, he's actually, well, his score you can't trust because he also killed an ACU. But in terms of mass, he's doing quite well. The power game, 19,000 for both players, for both air players. The air numbers, Critalis is at 118 plus a bunch of Tech 2 gunships to clean up. Yeah, so a bunch of engineers got killed, but not much. Those Riptides. Riptide is very expensive unit, 360 mass per unit. 130. So actually Postal and Critalis nearly identical on the ASF number. So if there's an air fight, it's really going to go down to micro or things like Omnis and is that an... Yeah, Critalis with his reclaim police, his SCUs. Critalis with his Tech 3 ACU. It's working on build capacity. You can see throttles working. And the battleships are in this game. 3 for each flare. So even. But one advantage that Gala is using are these submarines. The Tech 2 subs. Extremely good. 2 factories on Tech 3 production. A factory on shield production. I think here making more shields. At least in the past it was always the way to go, is to produce shields like crazy. But these submarines definitely an issue. There are a couple of Coopers, but I don't think they're doing enough. To keep an eye on how this micro, what exactly is going to be the micro. We see a battlecruiser that has bit the dust. Great work with the submarines. As long as Gala avoids the Coopers, he can do whatever the heck he wants. That'll be a nice target as well. And we're going to see an air fight here. I am seeing anti-nuke from Postal. Critalis standing by with a massive torpedo bomber force. I love the Cybern Torps. Tech 2 torpedo bombers. Here we got battlecruiser versus frigates. This is definitely not where you want to attack if you're Zoc. I think yeah, this force is gonna get erased fairly quickly. Good choice from Gala where to put that battlecruiser. It's very nice to see that this entire Setton's Ocean has battles everywhere. So these 2 players, as was anticipated, minute 27, are yeah, really showing what a Setton's naval battle should be. And this is one of the reasons not to stand still. Those missiles will fly across the map. Really good range on those. And actually, let me quickly look up all the ranges for Navy for UEF. So looking at this naval battle, the cruisers and the battleships have the exact same range. Missiles versus these shots. 450 damage per second from the battleships. About 3,000 damage in a single volley. Looking at the Coopers versus the Barracuda, the range on the Cooper is what? One place I didn't look. Oh my goodness, Critalis. So yeah, that's the only anti-nuke which is not loaded, which means somebody's gonna get hurt here. Yeah, so somebody's gonna get hurt. When you compare the Barracuda to the Cooper, meanwhile, in terms of damage, a slight advantage to the Barracuda, about 115 versus 95. The range on the Barracuda is 45, while the Cooper is 50, so you can slightly outrange. There's one big difference. Let's see, where's that gonna go? Ooh, yeah, that's gonna kind of suck. So look at the stats: 23 power, 312. Interesting. Postal decided to self-destruct those engineers. So you can see a major dip in power, a major dip in mass production. Another good target for probably been the anti-nuke, but overall, that's definitely the biggest concentration of eco from the top side. So Critalis is likely going to have in total control. As we're seeing Critalis, these reclaim police SCUs are also making harms, which is really nice. And torpedo bombers now from Critalis. Critalis playing his ass off here. He's playing extremely well. That nuke and then really helping out Cagaita versus Pacha Rica. Are we going to see an air fight here? We got to see the numbers. The numbers for Critalis 233, Postal has 245. So he's got a slight advantage, but in the near future he won't. So surprised almost that Critalis decided not to take that battle. Even if he loses it, he knows he can recover, given his eco. But what he's done there is just throw away a lot of torpedo bombers. Huh. Interesting. Perhaps a safe play there. We're also seeing back to the Barracudas, which are dominating. The two big differences between Barracuda and the Cooper, of course, is one a submarine, the other one's a surface ship. So as long as these are protected against other surface ships, they're very good. When you look at the torpedo defense, the torpedo defense for the Cooper is about 8 times better than the Barracuda. Which means basically the number of anti-torpedo shots that it makes, you're going to get 8 times as many per ship, which is just a massive difference. You can get a lot of Coopers in one spot. They basically make an area where torpedoes do not engage your ships. Barracudas also have a similar effect when they're in these large numbers, but it's much more difficult to do it with them. That's, I think, the Coopers together with Atlantis is a very nice force. Atlantis can also outrange all these. But Atlantis requires some Tech 3 engineers. Interesting that Zoc isn't producing any more build capacity. He's happy with the build capacity that he has. He is getting help from Tiep. Tiep making Tech 3 ships. 100% EAF. But at this point, everything is extremely even. Gala and the double base has nearly 600 mass. Critalis is running away with the power. The bottom side, a lot more power. Have an anti-nuke. Where is this nuke? How many kills did it actually get? 37. But none of those were engineers. And the harm creep. Yeah, the stats for harms is that they have a range of 80. I don't know what the damage... I know they do massive damage. I need to look that up. Alright, so harms 375 damage per second with a range of 80. Same range as the Cyber and Destroyer with their main cannon. So the kind of pattern is that 45 range for standard torpedoes on submarines and 80 or 60 range on the main cannons, and special torpedoes like Harms or Atlantis are at 80. The Megalith torpedoes are actually kind of 45 with a DPS of 308. As I'm saying this, we have Gala really making a big push, but I don't think he has what it takes here. Surprised that we don't see more Coopers from... Actually, here they are. The Coopers are right there from both Tiep and Zoc. And once those Coopers make it into the battle, I'm a -1 down. I think they will do damage. It does look like Gala has been doing a good job avoiding the Coopers. Keeps on running away from them. So that's a very good awareness. Yeah, if you compare, say, torpedo bombers, there's really 3 kinds of torpedo bombers. There's Seraphim, EF, and Cybern. Wow, that's a ballsy. Still ballsy. Petrico. Oh, there goes an SCU. What a waste. Yeah. Battles continues. It's really hard to call what will happen in the navies. I think what we can say is Critalis should have air eventually, because there is a recovery operation here for Postal. But with torpedo bombers, 750 damage in a single pass for the regular torpedo bombers. Aeon is significantly different, is that there are depth charges, which don't get affected by torpedo defense. However, they do tend to get lost a lot more often. So Aeon in this range sucks, but Might be better in other ranges. The Tech 3 torpedo bomber for Aeon, 200 damage in a single pass. So if somebody had Aeon here, which they don't, for example, if you want to snipe a cruiser, you want 2 passes on a cruiser, or say 3 or 4 passes on a destroyer, or for a stock ACU, 6 passes on an ACU, 5 for Cybern. Yeah, this force has been excellent, but it's really getting thinner and thinner for Gala. Gala could find himself in a bit of trouble here. He's facing 2 bases. I'd love to see a nuke right here, unless there are better ideas. It's all Tech 3. Because there should be a nuke here. No, it's only about a third of the way done. Another great unit here would be the Bug if Critalis is able to win air. So far, he hasn't made that attempt, but what Critalis has done with these SCUs, he's really secured this area. He's put both Tech 3 AA and Harms, while Pechirico's still stealing mass. So minute 34, something to look at is the reclamation numbers. Pechirico 33,000 directly across Kagaita 47. So Kagaita has been the beneficiary of grabbing a whole bunch. Looks like somebody paused, and that definitely confused the game. Winning that initial battle did give about an extra 14,000 to Kagaita. We might see an air fight here shortly. Looking at Gala versus Zoc. Gala is at 60,000, so significant. Zoc 43,000. So the bottom side doing a better job on the reclaim front. But yeah, look at all the shields. As Zoc is building up Tech 1 factories to reclaim this battle. This is where a lot of those submarines died. And it's always very important to look at how players choose to organize their units, their build capacity. And typically rock is kind of at a disadvantage. It's a lot less space than a beach, really open. But it's basically Tech 3 battleships and a whole bunch of Tech 2 subs with some Coopers mixed in. As we see Strat Bombers from Critalis. Yeah, he's going to do a conventional assault on this island. And I hope there's an air fight soon, just for the sake of the speed of this replay. We're looking at 350 SF for Postal, who might be going in. Critalis, 372. So Critalis with an advantage. He is going to be fighting over enemy territory here. There are cruisers. There are also strats in here. Oh, look at the strats are going to come from outside, and this could be a bad situation for Zoc. It'll be massive splash. And if you see those attack, what I've been told is if you just give your units an attack move, or not, or just let them patrol or stop them, they automatically do that. I've never seen that, so there's still something I don't understand about this game. But it looks like Postal was microing, meanwhile Critalis wasn't. However, Critalis was bombing. And these cruisers, this significant amount of cruisers from Zoc, I think they did shift the fight. So temporarily, air has been won by the top side. These strats will continue to do damage, but look at what happened to the build capacity from Zoc. It's really been disappeared. There are a whole bunch of kennels standing by, so those will... actually, that's something else that I want to look up. I want to see the build capacity on the kennel. I know, well actually, I'll just look all those up. In the other ocean, the battle still continues. Pechirico getting pushed back. Very methodical up on top. So even though Critalis did lose that fight, he did inflict significant damage. It did leave a lot of reclaim for Zoc. And the amount of ASF that's left for Postal is really not that high, so Yeah, only about 90. That's something that Kurtalis should be able to produce fairly quickly, given that he has a significant advantage on economy. 53 power, 522 mass. So there is a window, however, here where Zoc and Tip might make a push against Gala. Gala has really retreated. All these harms are going to be buying some time. SCU is retreating. Looks like that SCU has the build capacity upgrade, which is something that I'm going to look up right now. So got a bunch of numbers for SCUs, ACUs. Basic build capacity you can think of as an engineer, which is given 5. An SCU with an upgrade is at about 100, basically 20 Tech 1 engineers. Stock one is about half that. Sorry, I'm rounding definitely. Looks like in the top ocean, Puerto Rico could be in a bit of trouble. But even though Zoc just got assaulted here, he is rebuilding his build capacity. So the canals, when you build the Tech 3 canal, it produces 2 drones. You can see them here. Each drone works the same as 4 Tech 1 engineers. And it looks like these Coopers doing so much damage here. The reason they can survive, yes, some battle cruisers are necessary to get rid of those. They're doing some damage against these ACUs. It's very sad to see SCUs die like that. That's Zoc and Tiep being very methodical here. I think Gala will need some help here shortly. And now the SCU dies. And torpedo bombers, 750 damage in one pass, so to kill an SCU, which is nearly 2,000. Yeah, that's gonna take like 30 passes. Rather massive fight. I really wish I had a faster processor for this. One player we haven't checked for a reclaim, T-up, 34,000, relatively low, but a lot of mass in the bank, producing a whole bunch of SCUs. Does he have an anti-nuke here? Definitely does. It's a very important anti-nuke. It covers a lot of different space. Also an Omni should be a primary target. And actually this area would also be a pretty good target. These mass fabs do produce quite a big explosion when they blow up. I think that was nerfed a little bit. Used to be a lot bigger. The harm creep continues. Surprised I haven't seen any Atlanti from the EAF players, but I guess that's alright. Guess they're kind of expensive. You want to maximize the number of battleships that you have. Zoc has probably got a huge reclaim now, yeah. 140,000, and he still has a whole bunch of planes. Each one of these ASF is only a few hundred, something like 200 or 300 mass, but still, when you get 500 of them falling on your head, it's pretty good. The two air forces, once again, similar numbers. Kurtalis sitting at 143, decided not to use stealth. He's going to use that power to make mass instead. Postal 100, 130, which I think if there's a fight, Kurtalis should win, although these cruisers could make a difference. Gala definitely getting pushed back, harms together with TMDs, but the battleship number for Zoc is just quite large, 10. So that's 30 damage per second for all those, and we have to also include Tiep in this one. He's got another 12, so 60 damage per second, or even more, from all the Tech 3 ships. That's a significant number. That will make things disappear. Battle cruisers, fairly... Oh, sorry, those are battleships. Leading with a battle cruiser. So if I was looking at this game, I would predict that Gala will eventually lose, which makes Kagaita's win here critical. I think there is hope for Kagaita to win this. He has received a lot of support. Question is where to nuke now for Kurtalis, and is nearly done. I think this is a good target. This will be a good target. We don't see any anti-nukes here yet. I think nuking Zoc would buy a little bit of time for Gala. We looked at over 20 battleships for the top side. Let's look at what Gala has. He's only got 6 battleships, a couple battle cruisers. So he is definitely in the process of losing here. He's also having to deal with a massive
Strategic launch detected.
assault force. And what did they decide to nuke? Yeah, a couple Tech 3. There's an Omni here, which is kind of nice. Maybe once Kagaita wins this battle, he can clear all that. But I think this is a much bigger target. Power here, all that power isn't really that big a deal. As we're seeing air fight, I think it'll be critical for Kurtalis to win this. I think he had a slight numbers advantage.